Hello, welcome to Encore. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm Richelle Plesse. Coming up on this week's cinema show.
Home sweet home.
Tu t'en fiches. Tu veux pas prendre de Corse alors? Tu veux prendre des Corses ou pas? Dis-moi. Tu veux prendre des Corses ou pas? Tu veux pas en prendre, c'est pas grave. Tu veux pas en prendre, c'est pas grave.
Vous êtes gentille et fraîche. C'est le genre qui plaît ici. Si vous vous appeliez Belle de Jour. Oui, si vous voulez.
To talk about those movies, our film critic Lisa Nesselson is here. Hello, Lisa. Now, we start with a time-travelling sci-fi action extravaganza billed as the most expensive European film ever made. Luc Besson's Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets cost a whopping €200 million. Now, did all that cash end up on screen?
Well, according to my colleagues, it did. I can't confirm that because I haven't seen it yet for myself, but I'm not sure I would brag about having spent stratospheric amounts on a French movie for the simple reason that the average French film costs €3 million. So
that's quite a difference.
It is. So does Valerian give you 66 times more bang for the buck? I don't know. Judge for yourself.
We're a team.
It's the latest blockbuster on outer space. A story that brings to life space and time-traveling agents Valerian and Laura Lynn. They're a 28th century couple tasked with saving the universe. The movie is based on a science fiction graphic novel that director Luc Besson's been a fan of since the age of 10. The director took Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets to the big screen with the help of 2 special effects studios, which made Star Wars and Avatar, and a budget of nearly €200 million.
They're the best in the world. We had to wait for James Cameron to make Avatar so we could get the technological tools that we needed to make this movie.
The film is inspired from a universe created over 50 years ago by Pierre Christin and Jean-Claude Messier. After having invented flying taxis for The Fifth Element, Messier picked up his crayons once again for Besson.
So it's Besson. He's our little reader who adapted us. He kept in mind his emotions as a young reader. But it was done in a manner that really pleased me.
Fans of the graphic novel, meanwhile, await the movie with impatience.
I watched the trailer. I see things from the comic book. The characters look the same. It's been respected graphically.
He took a big risk, and I have high expectations. We're looking forward to watching it.
Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets debuted in the United States a week before its official release in France.
Now, Lisa, like wine and cheese, director Luc Besson is one of France's famous exports and a film industry titan.
Indeed he is. Besson has been writing and directing and producing movies since his rather good 1983 post-apocalyptic drama, Le Dernier Combat. At some point, he promised that he would only direct 10 movies total in his career, but he's broken that promise. And it could be argued that that's good or bad news, depending on how many brain cells you have. But he has produced the insanely successful Taken trilogy, starring Liam Neeson. Those movies are actually a lot of fun. And he directed the incredibly silly but vastly entertaining Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson. And those movies made France into a champion exporter on a massive scale. Now, before that success, back in 1988, Besson made an absolutely inane film about rival divers that marked an entire generation of filmgoers. That was Le Grand Bleu. But Besson loves the water and all the things in it. And in 1991, he followed that with a really extraordinary underwater documentary called Atlantis, which nobody went to see except maybe me. When he read those Valerian comics as a boy of 10, he knew that there was no way, no, he didn't know, but there was no way to bring all of the visual effects to the screen. The Fifth Element has 188 visual effects in it, and Valerian sports 2 2,744, according to the man himself. Now, France has always had a thriving film industry, but it lacked major full-service studios where you could make big movies, and so he built Cinema City in a Paris suburb. He says he studied every aspect of how the building should function, including where to locate the bathrooms so that they would lose the absolute minimum amount of time if people had to take toilet breaks. Since he didn't attend film school and had no connections in the film industry, he's really very self-made. He founded a film school that's very difficult to get into, that tries to look for people who otherwise wouldn't have those opportunities. Tuition is free. Not everything Besson touches is gold. He made a trilogy called Arthur and the Minimoys, supposed to be for children, and personally, I think they're so ugly and stupid, even though you have Madonna, you have David Bowie, you have Lou Reed, that you should keep your children away from them. In 2011, he made the sober and informative, however, The Lady, about son Aung San Suu Kyi, and that's as far away as you can get from interstellar silliness.
Okay, well, next, Une vie violente, or A Violent Life, had its premiere in Cannes a couple of months ago. It's a tale of crime and punishment that looks at the tumultuous past of the French island of Corsica. A look at how a young Corsican ended up taking the shady path to political radicalism.
A Violent Life is an excellent title for this gripping and frightening look at the recent history of Corsica, written and directed by a filmmaker who is himself Corsican. It's a thriller with strong political overtones. So Stéphane is a young man from Bastia. He's comfortably in exile in Paris in 2001, and he decides to return to Corsica for the funeral of a childhood friend and fellow freedom fighter who was murdered the night before. There's a powerful sense of place once he gets back there, an ever-simmering sense of dread throughout the entire movie. In the 1990s, the political resistance faced lethal opposition from criminal elements as the tentacles of, shall we say, organized crime, presumably abetted by people in high places, built up these increasingly objectionable ways to put pressure on the citizens and the resources. And so, intent on preventing that beautiful island from going the way of Sicily, certain people decided to fight back, and let's just say their model was not Gandhi. The film flashes back to when Stéphane was a young, apolitical man. He made the mistake, let's say, of taking a duffel bag full of weapons for some friends. Unfortunately, those weapons were used in a terrorist attack. It was traced back to him. He ended up in prison. He was bookish and stoic, but some men, thought he was a good candidate to help them out, and the rest is history. Early on, we're shown this shockingly expedient scene in which men are executed point blank and set on fire while fruit workers go about, just picking the trees the way they ordinarily would. And so this is a way of showing you that staying silent, minding your own business is absolutely de rigueur. The violence plays by like frontier justice, but what we see is that the frontier is forever changing. Let's take a look.
Manquerait plus que ça qu'ils comprennent quelque chose. C'est bien pour ça qu'on les a à côté. C'est parce qu'ils comprennent rien. Et tant mieux qu'ils comprennent rien. Tu as vu les militants qu'on a? Est-ce que tu crois qu'ils s'intéressent au monde, à le penser, le monde?
Attention, je te parle pas de ça. Je te dis que demain, il y a des jeunes qui iront faire leurs affaires. Ils te diront, c'est pour moi. Tu vas le gérer comment? C'est ça que je te dis.
Je vais rien gérer du tout. Les jeunes, ils pensent qu'au fric et qu'à se gaver. Qu'ils crèvent.
Now, it's been 50 years since the release of French classic Belle de Jour, starring screen icon Catherine Deneuve. The film by Luc Besson became a global art house hit. Now, to mark its anniversary, the movie can be seen once again on the big screen here in France, along with restored prints of 5 of his other films. Why is Belle de Jour so special, Lisa?
Well, Buñuel made a lot of wonderful films, some of them in Spanish, some of them in French. But Belle de Jour is an absolute masterpiece of sly, subversive, erotic filmmaking. It was incredibly European when it came to America 50 years ago. So Deneuve stars as Séverine, a virginal young bride who happens to work during the day at a high-class brothel.
As you do.
Where the patrons do some shocking things to her, which is more than fine with her. And her husband, who's a sort of middle-of-the-road surgeon, has absolutely no idea about her part-time job, and it's entirely possible that none of this is actually happening, that it's a fantasy, or a fantasy within a fantasy within a fantasy. She's a masochist who's admired for her virtue because she's 23 and actually she looks virtuous, right? The film is genuinely erotic because there isn't really any sex portrayed, but there is plenty of imaginative intimations of excitement.
It's all suggested.
Yeah, that could be triggered by a cat mewing, or mud, or the side of a box that we never really see what's in it. Buñuel, who was 67 at the time, co-wrote the screenplay with Frenchman Jean-Claude Carrière, and he and Carrière also collaborated in 1972 on The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, about a group of friends who just can't seem to sit down to dinner. It won the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar, and it holds up magnificently. Buñuel and Salvador Dali made 2 films together. One of them is a short film everybody should see at least once, the surrealist masterwork Un Chien Andalou, An Andalusian Dog, with that famous shot of the woman getting her eyeball sliced. When the Pompidou Center did a Dali retrospective a few decades ago, they showed it on a continuous loop, and I sat there rapt and watched it about 10 times in a row.
OK, well, we'll leave you with a clip from Belle de Jour. Thanks again to our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Good to see you, as always. For more arts and culture news, head to our website and connect with us on social media. Stay with us here on France 24. Lots more coming up after this.
À quoi penses-tu, Séverine? À quoi penses-tu?
Je pensais à toi. À nous deux. Nous nous promenions ensemble dans un landau.
Toujours le landau?
You Are Here, your programme spotlighting French heritage.
Versailles, the Louvre, and the Mont Saint-Michel are all well-known stars of French heritage. But French genius and France harbors many other hidden treasures. The arts, gastronomy, architecture, as well as nature's wonders. Come along with France 24 and discover France's living heritage. From young apprentices to accomplished craftsmen, farmers to Michelin star sporting chefs, meet these people whose passion for their professions preserve and drive French heritage.
You Are Here on France 24 and France24.com.